Welcome to Family Hour of the YAHOWAH blog. We're here with almost a full cast of characters. We've got Kevin. I think you've moved to a different location in my pool, but it's always nice to have you here on the islands. And we've got Captain Kirk. And now that you're a celebrity, you know, like a 4 or 5 page spread with all of your artwork and your wife there in Carmel. Yeah. Carmel Magazine, man.
Yeah,
that's a pretty tall carton. And speaking of being tall, there, JB, you're on the moon.
I'm with the moon.
Very impressive. And we have Rich, who there he is. Rich behind the controls, pulling all of the levers to make us look intelligent. We even have a south side of Wookiee headed north. Here as well. Leia's under the weather, so we're going to miss Leia in this program. I do want to say the program is endorsed by Red Bull, knowing that in fact that YAHOWAH refers to me as the Adama Para, which means the Red Bull. We thought Leia thought she'd bring me a Red Bull to celebrate.
Well. And the red shirt.
We don't miss any connections. Actually, the program is endorsed by YAHOWAH and no one else. Where we were in our program on what we're calling the Antichrist series, although as I always have to have the explanation, there was no Christ, but we're very happy to be Antichrist as a result. The Mr. Christ fiasco is really a product of Paul. He was the one who conceived the myth of Jesus Christ in 52 CE. And he didn't do it out of whole cloth. It's not like somebody didn't live that was crucified who happened to be the Son of God and who was the Messiah, because the Messiah really was there in 33 CE, and he really was the Son of God, and he really was crucified to fulfill Passover. All of those things happened, and he also provided the only eyewitness account of the event. He just wrote his eyewitness account 1,000 years before he fulfilled it. But that person was Dode David, and YAHOWAH is very clear that his son is Dode, that Dode is the Messiah. He says so on 4 occasions, actually. And he tells us that Dode is his son and that he is his father on 3 occasions. Pretty obvious that God knows what he's talking about, and therefore there really was a Son of God, a Messiah, who was crucified to fulfill Passover, and who actually went into Sheol, taking our guilt with him on matzah, such that he could rise back to the Father and complete Bikurim on the first day of the week in 33 CE. It's just that it wasn't Jesus, and there was no such individual at the time, and Paul simply promoted a counterfeit. So the program is the Antichrist because we are Antichrist, but also because of the fact that the Torahless one, who is depicted throughout the book of Daniel, and who is described elsewhere, for example, in the book of Ezekiel as the Coppercon, we have identified him because the descriptions of him are so accurate. And we were actually drawn to this, fellows, quite some time ago, back in November of last year, first week of November. I announced that Donald Trump was going to be the great betrayer of Israel, that he was the man who would be the next Neville Chamberlain, and that he would sacrifice Israel as Neville Chamberlain sacrificed Czechoslovakia, that Donald Trump's Nazis would be Muslims, that his Hitler would be MBS of Saudi Arabia, and that his Czechoslovakia would be Israel, and that the consequence would be World War III. And we knew that because the prophet Isaiah, had been so explicit, saying that it would be during the Shabuah harvest that Israel would be narrowed at the waist. And then he goes into the 18th chapter after saying that in the 17th chapter, that the nation most responsible for undercutting Israel and the man who is going to be the leader of this nation undercutting Israel is the President of the United States, and that it is clearly Donald Trump. The time is nigh. This is going to happen within the next 9 months. And so we're not left with any other options. And then we read in Daniel that Gabriel, God's most courageous and capable man, who happens to be David, the actual Messiah, Son of God, he told us that a treaty will be formed between many nations that is essentially going to make Israel indefensible. And that this is also going to happen in coordination with Shabuah, which means that it's going to happen over the next 9 months. And so it was obvious that it was Donald Trump. But to go the next step and to say, well, Donald Trump is also the what's called the Antichrist, this Torahless one, was a bit of a stretch. It shouldn't have been, because, of course, in Daniel, we know that the person who is the one that leads that covenant with many that destroys Israel, that gouges the heart out of Israel, is in fact this Torahless one. He is the Antichrist. And as a result, there can be no mistaking that it is Donald Trump. But oh boy, were we ever given other clues. Yeah. And a series of them happens to be in this passage we're going to begin this program on, because, well, if this isn't Donald Trump, then I'd hate to meet this individual, because it says the following. So this controlling authoritarian will exude a crushing and powerful influence, and he will exhibit the propensity to be a real bone breaker. It's Assam Hugh. I don't think the world's ever known a politician more prone to the lifestyle of Hannibal Lecter. I mean, Donald Trump quite literally is devours his own. He is a cannibal. He destroys everybody. One moment he's shaking your hand and saying, "Oh, we're good friends. We have a great relationship," and then next moment he's ripping the person apart and tearing them to shreds. He's not in jail today and is in the White House because Elon Musk invested $300 million at the last minute in states that were swing states, and then he turns on Elon Musk and trashes the man. He is cleaner, the man that cleaned up all the messes that Trump made so that he would be elected the first time. Michael Cohen was sacrificed so that he turned on him. It was vicious towards him, and he ended up in jail as a result of his client turning on him. So Donald Trump is a real bone breaker. He is the most ruthless politician to have ever been head of a modern country. Then it says he's a constricting snake. Now, the snake reference is because, of course, this individual has to be demon-possessed. And Satan is equated to the serpent. But it's also because he's creepy, because he conceals his true identity, that he is a chameleon as sorts, that his way of going about things is serpentine, and that he's cold-blooded and therefore has no empathy. It certainly sounds like Donald Trump to me. Do you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody want to challenge that?
Not anymore. Yeah.
No, we don't have a political axe to grind here. We are all apolitical, which means that we don't vote for, we don't support any political candidate or political party. We only speak of politicians when they do something extraordinarily right and favorable, particularly as it pertains to YAHOWAH and Yisrael. And we rebuke them when they do things that are counter to humankind, life on the planet, and to Israel. So it isn't a matter of us being political. We most certainly are not liberals. I can't speak for you guys, but I'm certainly not a liberal. So
when I did vote, I voted libertarian every time.
Yeah, so
I did too, as a matter of fact, way back then.
Which means essentially you're too conservative to be a Republican.
Correct.
Yes. You prefer less government, less intrusion in your life, more personal responsibility. And so you can't even vote for the Republican candidate because they are too much like the Democrats and want big government, big militaries, big taxation, big spending, all those sorts of things. And so we're not coming at this from a liberal point of view. We're coming at Donald Trump because we recognize precisely who he is, and because he is so grotesquely immoral. I mean, he is clearly a pedophile. He is a convicted rapist. He has some 25 women who have accused him of sexual abuse. He has taken over $16 billion in bribes from between Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and Qatar. He lies about everything. So we're dealing with an exceedingly grotesque man, and now he suffers from what medical procession, and we call it confabulation, where there is literally no correlation between what he believes and says and reality. So this is an exceedingly reptilian man with a bone-breaking personality. He is authoritarian too. How many bills has Donald Trump passed through the U.S. Congress?
One.
By one vote, right?
Yeah.
And so everything else he's done has been an authoritarian. So in 8 months in office, he has a Congress and a Senate that he controls, his party. And he plays so poorly with others. He's such an authoritarian. He's only had one vote.
But I lose that guy.
Wow. But then it goes on to say, but not through his own serpentine ability, no, through his own authority or accomplishments or snakish qualifications. What this is saying is that Satan was reduced from a cherub in the garden when he came in to talk to YAHOWAH. The reason there were no introductions to YAHOWAH, the reason that YAHOWAH had a propensity to believe him, is that she knew him. He had been there on the wall of the garden. And we know this because Ezekiel is Satan's autobiography, and Satan's exceedingly open about this. He makes it very clear that he was on that wall, that he thought himself to be glorious, that he should never have been penalized by God for doing really what was in his programming, to be an alternative to God. And he tells the whole story about how glorious he is and how terrible that day was from his perspective, from Satan's perspective. So he is the serpentine fellow, but because he was diminished by God, he's not nearly as clever as he used to be. And he certainly, you can tell, because look at the people that he has influenced that have admitted that they're demon possessed. We know Donald Trump is because of the prophets, but the two before him that Satan had the greatest influence through are Paul, who admitted in his second letter to Corinth that he was demon possessed, and Muhammad, who admitted he was demon possessed during his first revelation, and he admitted he was demon possessed during his last revelation. So, and there are whole surahs in the Quran that esteem devils. And Satan and Allah are indistinguishable throughout the Quran. It even says in the Quran that all of Allah's messengers speak on behalf of Satan. And so you look at the words and the lives of those two men, and what you see is what we're witnessing in Donald Trump. Now, Paul admitted that he was a sexual pervert. Now, it was kind of a twisted sort of a way. He said, yeah, I'm a sexual pervert, but I wouldn't have known that I was a sexual pervert without the Torah. So without the Torah, I guess I'm not a sexual pervert because it's only the Torah that claims I'm a sexual pervert.
So let's throw that out, and then I'm okay. Yeah.
Then I'm okay. Throughout the Torah, and then I'm okay. That was maybe that's why he hated the Torah. Yep.
Kind of
God was just way
Chawa.
Yeah, God was way too judgmental for him.
Right.
So then he goes and he writes on behalf of the Roman government, which is the ultimate beast, according to the book of Daniel. And when you look at what Rome has done to Israel, they have been Israel's by far the worst adversary of Israel. It has invaded and attacked and destroyed Israel 3 different times. But yet Paul wrote in Romans that, speaking of the Roman government, that it was a government imposed by his God, and that everybody should submit to them. So he clearly spoke for the beast of Rome and for the Roman Catholic Church, which was the beast that grew out of that beast. And he lied about everything. He lied about Jesus Christ. He lied to rob Dode of his accolades and achievements to create that myth of Jesus Christ. He lied about his whole life. And every time he quoted something from God, he lied. He didn't get a single quote from the Torah, prophets, and Psalms accurate. Not one. He twisted every single one of them. You know how many times he quoted Jesus?
Right. None.
0. That is correct. 0. And you know why he quoted Jesus 0 times? There were actually 2 reasons he quoted Jesus 0 times.
Myths don't speak.
That name wasn't invented. For one.
Yeah.
Well, he invented him, so he could write "I Paul say," and that would be the same as "I Jesus say," because Paul invented Jesus. So there was really no reason to quote Jesus if you invented him, correct? Well, so that's certainly one reason. You know what the other reason is?
He's not in the Torah. God didn't.
Well, that's corrected. That's correct. But guess what also didn't exist while Paul was writing his 14 letters?
The Gospels.
The Gospels.
Yeah.
No,
There was no Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John.
Right.
Mark would be written 20 years after Paul's death, and then Luke after that, and copying Mark. And then Matthew and John weren't written for another, Paul died in 66. They were written in 95, another 30 years. And so, no, there were no so there was no gospel of Jesus. It was all made up afterwards to fit into Paul's scheme. In fact, the term gospel is a term created by Paul. It's based upon euangelion. And Paul went so far as to say that his euangelion was his own, and that any other variation was false, only his. So the Gospel of Mark is the gospel according to Paul. So he never once quoted Jesus. Now, that alone, if you were a rational person and you were informed, would cause you to leave Christianity. But there he is. He is a person that everything in his life, everything he writes about is based on one thing. And it's the same thing that we find in Donald Trump. What is the one thing about Donald Trump that he actually has a passion? He cares deeply about one thing.
Himself.
Right.
Yeah.
What did Paul care about? What did Paul write about?
Paul said.
Yeah. And he also said he was the bestest rabbi ever. He was the most eloquent man ever. He's the only person that God chose to be the apostle to the entire world. Yeah, that what he said mattered, and if you disagreed with him, he said, "I condemn you." He condemned Peter. So Paul and Donald Trump are exceedingly similar. And we know Paul was demon-possessed. Now, Muhammad is best known for being a pedophile. 66-year-old, and he's in bed with a 6-year-old girl. Even his best friend's 6-year-old daughter. And he's diddling a 6-year-old girl when he's 66 years old. I'm sorry, young lady. Yeah, I know you love your daddy. But isn't that, it is pretty much amazing that here Muhammad and Donald Trump are both pedophiles. Donald Trump is a convicted rapist. And there are some 25 women who accuse him of sexual assault and rape. And Muhammad was a serial rapist. He raped every woman that he could. He was constantly killing men to steal their women and rape them. And Muhammad was a psychopath, as is Donald Trump.
Hasatan has a type.
He has a type. Confabulator, a thief, easily bribed. Yeah, it's obvious that the devil has a type, and that Muhammad, Paul, and Donald Trump are his type. So not through his own serpentine capability, his own authority, accomplishment. So Satan is going to latch on to a man who is his type. It will be by astonishing and astounding, awesomely amazing in its miraculous and supernatural fulfillment, unlike anything prior. This is the next statement. Well, if you begin to think about what we're witnessing with Donald Trump, it truly is astonishing. It's almost to the point of miraculous that a man who was at this point, he was already a convicted rapist. He is a felon. He has received, that his family has acknowledged $16.5 billion from Islamic interests. He has lied tens of thousands of times. He can't keep his own story straight one day to the next.
Yeah.
And this man, who can't even complete a sentence, was elected president of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some 70 million people that revere him as if he were a Messiah. And he is loved in Israel. There is no one in Israel that is more popular than Donald Trump.
Right.
And yet he empowered a man that had been bribed by Qatar, which is the international bank of Islamic terrorism, and Hamas, to oversee them in that relationship. Qatar is the single most terrorist-prone country in the world. And yet Trump's in bed with them. And yet no one seems to care. It is stunningly miraculous. Trump's only means of keeping from being impeached and being completely repudiated is chaos. Every week there's a new disaster. And we're now all so numb to it, no one even responds anymore.
Yeah.
Everything. He has literally destroyed the U.S. currency, our reserve currency status, America's position in world trade, commerce. He has made an absolute unmitigated disaster out of America's proxy war against Russia, not knowing where he stands. He keeps on encouraging Israel to destroy its reputation by bombing Gaza out of existence every day, making a bad situation worse. He bombs Iran and then said that he's the peacemaker. It is truly astonishing that you can witness this sort of thing, and that a man who is either suffering from confabulation or dementia or both can be president of the United States and not suffer the removal from office. And he has to live another 8 years to fulfill this role. Now, we're told he's not going to be ambulatory. We're told he's going to be in a wheelchair with really gaudy looking wheels, like what he's done to the Oval Office. But the man with the goatish comb over hair, who is copper colored, who's the real estate fraud, all of these clues, and we're told he's a really old dude. The prophecies are clearly pointing to Donald Trump and egotistical beyond measure. But Satan is going to keep him alive miraculously. That's what we're told here. The prophets have never been wrong. I don't think they're wrong here. And he will be exceedingly corrupt and destructive, debauched and depraved. Although this is a prophet you might want to question. You know who's delivering this crazy old prophecy here?
Is this one? Michael. Okay.
Yeah, Michael. Because what we have in this time is that Michael arrives, and then Dode arrives as Gabriel. And, Daniel does, of course, a face plant, and, you can't even stand in Dode's presence. And then, okay, well, there you go, bud. Wookie does want you to know that he did a very fine job of dismembering the what was a poor little animal.
No squeaker left behind.
Because what he has to do is he has to find their heart. Squeaky, and he goes right for the jugular and pulls out their heart. So that's the sweet little Wook. You gotta watch the Wookiees.
Yeah, you used to sleep on my bed.
Oh my! So he is just it's really an astonishing thing that somehow Satan will keep him alive over these next 8 years, and that he will continue to have influence. And I assume the only way he's going to have influence is that he will destroy the United States, both economically and the positions he's taken relative to Russia and Ukraine, and the making an enemy of India, of China, and of Russia. America's just not going to be able to survive that. But what's amazing is after he craters the United States, I think he's going to find his home in Israel, because we're told that he arrives in Jerusalem on the 29th of January of 2030.
Right.
And that he then pronounces himself God on the Ides of March of that year. 45 days later. So on March 15th, he's pronouncing himself as the Fourth Reich, if you will, and extending what was Imperial Rome over Israel. And therefore, he then continues to harass Israel and to make all sorts of promises of defending Israel while they're being overwhelmed by Islamic jihadists. And that continues all the way through Towrah, which is the 24th of September in 2033. So somehow he will be kept going. But we're told that he has a duplicitous nature. Now, the next adjective that is used, and it's quite a list that certainly is Trumpian, that he will be exceedingly corrupt, destructive, debauched, depraved, grossly immoral, slimy, putrid, spoiled, and perverted. Boy, when you listen to what those women who were the victims in the Epstein scandal say about what Trump did to them.
Right.
And then him lying about that whole thing and saying those women are all lying, the whole thing was a hoax. Now, you're dealing with an exceedingly disgusting man. I mean, I don't know how you would find a man more reprehensible. And what's hard to fathom is that in this particular case, this is a man who is known for his depravity, and yet he is the leader of what is the most powerful country in the world, and is going to be the leader of Israel with that kind of a resume. What I was saying is the guy that's presenting all of this, it is Michael comes in, then Dode arrives, and Gabriel falls flat on Daniel falls flat on his face. Then Dode, as Gabriel says, you need to listen to what this guy's going to say. He's going to explain everything to you so you know what's going on. And then Daniel is best almost passed out. And so it's then Michael's responsibility to prop the guy up so that at least he can listen to what's being said and write it all down. And so the guy that's giving this testimony here is Michael. It means one who's right about God. And since the only candidate for that dude happens to be, well, the Red Bull later in the story, geez. So I feel like here, what I'm doing now is I'm revealing the prophecy that I gave 2,600 years ago. It's a little bit of an out of body experience, and it's difficult for us stuck in time as we are to fathom how that would be possible. But yet we know that Yahweh is bringing Elia forward in time, right, to be one of the two witnesses. We don't seem to have any problem with that. We know that God says, "I'm bringing my son back, Dode, as the King of Kings," and we know that Dode lived a life in between the two to fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Makotam, because he said he would and gave us the exact date he would do so. And so when Yahweh revealed prophecy to say Yashayah, he had to take him back in time to ascertain the history of Jews, and then way forward in time so that he could witness to our time, because he speaks a lot about what we're doing today. And so if God can take a soul forward and back in time, he can take any soul forward and back in time, including a soul that was born later in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be your first task after Shabbat.
Yes. So, yeah, exactly. So I don't know how he does it, but we do know that time is navigable when you are an energy-based being, because all time exists simultaneously on a photon of light. Mm-hmm. So the way that Yahweh is able to take his witnesses or himself and going forward in time to witness our future and then report our future and our past, so it's not predicting the future, he's reporting future history, is because of the nature of energy relative to the dimension of time. And that time is a dimension, and that on a photon of light, that dimension can be navigated. So that is how he does it, but it doesn't change the fact that we have a tough time viewing time as a dimension. Mm-hmm. We see it as something that flows and moves only in one direction.
Right.
That's not how Yahweh perceives it. He is a 7-dimensional construct. While we're a 3-dimensional construct and are struggling to understand the fourth, he is a 7 and therefore understands all 6. And he's figured out a way to do this. So it says that he'll be destructive, debauched, depraved, exceedingly corrupt. And, well, there have been a lot of corrupt leaders, kings and queens over time. We're in a time where that should be more difficult, because you have to get lots of people to vote for these numbskulls. And as I say, every time when I see someone say something stupid in a press clipping of some sort, and everybody, or they have a huge following on X of the millions of people, and they say something that's really stupid, and everybody is railing at them that has a brain. And I said, no, it's not. Don't blame them. As a matter of fact, Yahweh even says, don't blame a single individual. Don't do that. And the reason is that it's not that individual that we should be worried about. It's the millions of people that voted for them, that follow them, that encourage them. Yeah, that's our problem. The problem is there's that many people that are misled and are part of a deceivious plot that empowers people like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a terrible problem because he's demon possessed and he is the Antichrist, and he is exceedingly destructive to America, and the world. But there's a bigger problem than Donald Trump, and that's the MAGAs that support him. And there's even another problem in that the Marxists, who are Democrats who would normally oppose him, can't do so because they can't think.
Right.
And so they're unable to use evidence and reason against him or stay focused long enough to deal with any one of the things that he has done. Right. So he doesn't have an adversary because their Marxism has just rendered all of his opponents incapable of thinking and incapable of being moral. They don't even know how to pass moral judgment. So our problem is ourselves, humankind, that has evolved to the point that such a corrupt individual could be empowered at this time. All right, then it says, and it just goes on and on here, and it's so Trumpian. He will be in a rush to appear successful. Oh man, everything Trump says. I was right about everything. He had a cap on the other day. Trump was right about everything. Right. He's always telling us that, America's really hot. We've gone now, we're the most hated country in the world. America's really hot. America is so successful. We've been successful at everything, he says. We haven't succeeded at anything, but he's the man who is at a rush to appear successful, claiming to be victorious. Oh, I solved 6 or 7 wars already. Well, I read through the other day each of the claims he made, and they're utter nonsense. He hadn't solved one conflict, much less 6. It's utterly absurd. He wants to receive the Nobel Prize. What, for doing nothing? He's in a rush to appear successful. He wants to claim that his tariffs saved the world, that without his tariffs, the world wouldn't exist anymore. Say what? A tariff is a tax on your own people. Yeah, talk about all the money we made on these tariffs and how wonderful they've been for America. No, all the money you made on those tariffs were a tax on Americans. You robbed Americans.
Right.
Claiming to be victorious at this time by feigning prosperity. When the manager of the Independent Office of Budget and Management gave a negative report last month. Yeah, he fired that. I think it was a woman. He fired them because he didn't like the reports. We called the report false and fired this person. Now the next report comes out and it's bad too.
Yeah,
with his replacement person.
Maybe it's just
yeah. We're just gonna make it up. We're going to reduce pharmaceutical prices by 1,500%.
Well, you're still
gonna make up math, man. We're gonna do it all. By being forceful and overbearing. Wah, Shalak, Trumpian. Yeah, that's kind of like he says, we're going to make resorts in Gaza. He's back, by the way, saying that when this is all done, Gaza is going to be an American territory, that America is going to manage Gaza. And what are they going to do with the Muslims in Gaza? And, this idea, we're going to move the Muslims out. We're going to move them into Egypt. I'm positive that's what's going to... No, it's not going to happen. And we're going to put them in Jordan. Even if you could, it would be a terrible idea because it's like them going to Europe where all they are doing is undermining those countries and making them ever more anti-Semitic. It's not helpful.
Yeah, you don't cut cancer out and move it around in the body. You cut cancer out and you throw it away. You know? And so that's what we're doing. Let's take this insanity that is God, that is Hamas, and let's spread it around the world in different places, right? So
when you have a viral plug like we had for COVID-19, the Torah says you isolate those people. You put them outside the community, quarantine them, and he went through the whole process of even how you have to wash your hands and wash their clothes and everything else, and how long they have to be symptom free before they can come back in. And he said, no, that's the way to go. What did we do? We took the people with COVID and we put them in with the sickest people in hospitals. I mean, how can you be that crazy? But we are. But his actions will be depraved, corrupting, and destructive, annihilating and exterminating. So this is a guy that's going to claim great success while he is ultimately corrupting, destructive, annihilating, and exterminating. You know what he did today? He signed an executive order today.
War Department.
War Department. It is no longer the Department of Defense. It is the War Department.
Secretary of War. He wanted to.
We didn't have any war.
That is correct. The Secretary of War. What war is America fighting right now? The answer is none. But the fact is, you don't call it the War Department unless you intend to have America fight a war. And why would a person like this cause a war? Because if you destroy the economy, you destroy your reputation, you have everybody on your tuchus because you're a lying fraud and fool, and because the Epstein files show that you were the number one participant in all of that, you have to have something that makes you impervious to being criticized. And the only way to do that is to be a wartime president, and he knows it.
Here we come.
He is reestablishing the Department of War. Why do you think he sent the Ohio-class submarines to Russia's shores? Why do you think he sent those that arsenal of atomic bombs into where he had his F-35 squadron in England?
Yeah.
And why did he think he had a speech about 2 weeks ago where saying we're prepared to go nuclear?
Wow.
And then he renames the Department of Defense the War Department. And no one seems to care.
Right. Or see it coming.
What?
Yeah. It's how do you not? Yeah.
Or they're cheering it on.
Yeah.
He goes to the point where he puts a secondary tariff on India for buying Russian oil, which they have bought all along, and irritates India to the point that India has spent the last 2 weeks between Putin and Xi and together.
Yeah.
And they've become best friends. He has galvanized India, Iran, North Korea, China, Russia, and Brazil, so that they're all now enemies of the United States. So, yeah, he's going to have his war.
You know, all three of those are loaded. Central banks are all loaded with gold now. I mean, really loaded. And so they can exchange each other without our dollar for it. Wouldn't matter.
And prior to this time, prior to Trump, BRICS, goes back now 24 years. We've been talking about BRICS for a long time, and how BRICS was positioned to unseat the reserve currency status of the United States, and without the reserve currency, with our fiat money and our debt, particularly now with $40 trillion in debt, there is no longer any way. I don't know what Wookie's issue is, but there is no longer any way for us to service our debt. And America is bankrupt. And so the thing that you have to do if you're president of the United States, you got to protect the reserve currency status. And what you means in that is you cannot do anything that takes America away from being the central player and a responsible player in international trade. So what's the first thing that Trump does? He imposes tariffs on the world and instantly destroys that position, and then puts more sanctions on China than anybody else, and then has to withdraw them all. And China says, even though you withdrew them all, we're going to teach you a lesson. We're going to stop buying things. They've completely stopped buying American gas, oil, almost everything that America sold to China, they've stopped buying. And they've rationed what they'll ship to America. I mean, it was unbelievably stupid what he did. But had he not been so belligerent, they would not have had the ability to overcome their differences. The reason that BRICS didn't form a variation of SWIFT for international exchange and an alternative to the dollar in terms of financing trade is because India and China were in a quiet war with each other over the borders.
Oh, yeah.
And Russia and China had major issues with each other. And so they were at odds with each other and didn't trust each other. But now the enemy from without, the United States, is so formidable, with Trump being so caustic and dangerous, so destructive, that he has caused them to say, by comparison to the United States and Trump, God, Putin and Xi, you guys, Modi, you're my best friends.
Yeah. What do we got to lose at this point? Yeah.
We got nothing to lose. And so they've come up with a currency, and they've come up with a Swiss alternative. And now Brazil and China, India and Russia, India and China, Russia and China, they're all doing business together, but not using the dollar.
Mm-hmm.
And so without Trump, that would not have happened. And now that it's happened, there's no turning it back. Yeah. And the dollar is going to be trashed because America has $40 trillion in debt.
Yeah, those dollars are going to come flooding back home. Yeah.
America can't find anybody to buy bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And so what it's doing is back to quantitative easing, which is creating the illusion of solvency by having the Federal Reserve create the illusion of money to buy the imaginary bonds.
Right.
This is what we're doing.
Helicopter Ben Bernanke. Yeah, that didn't work.
Oh my God. So he's destroyed America. It's over. And he's positioning the United States to go to war. And his big claim to fame is that he destroyed the Iranian nuclear program when it's obvious he didn't even damage it.
No,
the Iranians are now no longer developing a bomb or an arsenal of bombs. They have them.
They have, yeah.
It was over. They moved all the material out, and they moved it into the plant that metallized it from the gaseous form, and they had all the head start to do that. And Fordo, were these things took place. It wasn't damaged. So the whole thing is just crazy. And then prior to that, he goes in and says, I'm going to bomb the Houthis like they've never been bombed before. Right. And the Houthis took it to him. I mean, they knocked down a bunch of expensive drones. They took out 3 of our expensive fighters. They hit a aircraft carrier. And Trump knew he was doing no damage to the Houthis at all and just left and then declared victory.
Yeah. If at first you don't succeed, redefine success.
You can't beat the Houthis and you think you're going to beat Russia and China in a war?
Right.
When your economy is in shambles. And oh, by the way, they have figured out how to fight wars today, which is you make thousands upon thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of drones, and you overwhelm those missile defense systems that even if it was 1 for 1, it takes 2 of those interceptors to take out a missile, sometimes 3, and they cost 10 times more.
Right.
You lose the war, you go bankrupt, and America can't make the interceptors at anywhere close to the speed that they're needed. I mean, not even 1% at the rate that they're needed. And we're looking at the Patriot system in Ukraine. The Russians use that for target practice. I mean, they're completely ineffective.
Yeah.
The Russians are destroying everything that is war-related, including the damn Patriot systems. They have zero deterrence. And now the U.S. is encouraging Israel to reopen the Iranian conflict. They've got no chance. So I understand he's going to want a War Department, but I'm here to tell you that America would get its clock clean, that America can no more defeat China or Russia independently, much less together. So, folks, you're going to see World War III, and death will be among us. And here he says that he is also going to destroy the set-apart people. I don't think Jews are going to die at the rate of the rest of the world. I think that a nuclear confrontation that Trump is going to cause is going to kill billions. But we are told that 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to die. That's 10 million. That's worse than the Holocaust. So that was Daniel 8:24. So how do you like that?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. But it is, when you think that this was written 2,600 years ago about a president of the United States today, that's pretty extraordinary, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't even imagine all of those traits fitting someone. And yet they do this man. Oh, by the way, both Daniel and Daniel 9, we're in the 8th chapter, and also in Isaiah 17, it talks about the forfeiture of Israeli land for it's a treaty with many nations. And it says it's going to happen in conjunction with the Shabuah, which would be within the next 9 months. You know what's happening later this month?
Yeah, they're meeting in the UN to vote on it. Yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Towrah on the 20th.
Correct.
Well, 22nd.
Yeah. And you know who the co-host of that meeting is?
Well, is it Macron and Trump, or is it just?
Macron's one of them.
You're right. MBS. Okay.
MBS, Saudi Arabia. Yeah, he paid. He bought
paid for the right
Trump
to be there.
and MBS. So he paid for his right to be there. So here he is. MBS is going to be the Muslim that is best known for destroying Israel.
Wow.
Pretty sly for a psychopath. So ever since it became apparent that Donald Trump was the grandiose real estate developer orchestrating the planned construction of the monstrous temple to his ego as the orangest cohort of Satan within Ezekiel. Yep, he is the Coppercon. I have been concerned that he's too old for the job. And that's always been my concern in saying, every prophecy points to this man. Mm-hmm. And yet this man, it's not just that he's 79. He is 79 with full-on confabulation and dementia. And
well, he's overweight. There's nothing in him, body-wise that is right. Strong.
And he's just pure evil.
Yeah.
But I've been concerned he's too old for the job. After all, he's portrayed by his Lord plotting all manner of mass murders and rapes, and yet he is already showing signs of vascular disease and dementia. Well, nevertheless, I accepted the prophecies presented here at face value. That is what we're about. If God says this is what's going to happen, we accept it and march on and share what we have learned. I can tell you that identifying Trump as what is known as the Antichrist, this Torahless one, the great betrayer, is not something that I want to do. Right. Because all it does is make you a target and vulnerable. Mm-hmm. That's all it does. And yet, if you don't do it, then you're not doing the job that YAHOWAH asked you to do, which is to, we were told specifically that the prophecy in Daniel would be understood by the final witness in time for it to make a difference, and just in time for it to make a difference. If we don't do this, then we're being derelict in our responsibility. And so if the choice is becoming vulnerable or doing what Yahweh has asked us to do, we're going to do what Yahweh asked us to do. Damn the torpedoes. He's got us this far. We'll just going to keep right on going. I mean, at this point, how many have been, like 10,000 of these profound insights? And here we stand, adding to them at a prodigious rate. I mean, we're adding to the insights in terms of profound things that were never previously considered or known at the rate, 100 times what we were doing previously. As I've said here, that as I rereading and representing Hosea as the conclusion of this Yada Yahowah Volume 9, which is Time of Troubles. Every sentence, there's another affirmation of God's plan in it, and the means and the time and the way that he's going to carry it out, and never saw it previously. I was reading about a parah, and I previously said, I've been called a lot of things, but I don't think being called a parah is good. You're being called a cow, and that's what I wrote when I wrote that. But that was before we read that the choder is a parah, and that's when we read that the one who fulfills Towrah is a parah, and that's when we found out that this adulterous woman that is described in Hosea, that is where we learn that Israel is the religious whore. It's resolved by a parah.
Right.
Well,
the books are coming faster too. I mean, I remember waiting on Coming Home 2 for years. Okay. And now we've got 2 books that are, coming together. And it was like, where the heck did all this come from? Yeah.
Well, and I was only writing because I wanted new material for these programs. I didn't want these programs to be all just material from the books we had gleaned so far. And in particular, I wanted to be certain, going back to Daniel, that we had our timeline right. And so that's how it happens. And one thing leads to another. And then, the most profound here recently is to realize that the stories in Numbers, in Bamidbar, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, they likely happened as God explained them. That's not the reason that they're told, because they didn't do the children of Israel any good. Yeah, they're told because they're prophetic.
Rather profound to begin with.
Yeah, they're told because they describe what we're up against. They're telling us exactly who it is that we're trying to call home, and all of the challenges that will be part of it, and all the obstacles that we're going to overcome, and what we should do when we encounter those obstacles. Every bit of it's prophetic. Who would have thought? And who would have thought that God would give his entire dissertation on his plan to resolve Israel's belligerence in Numbers 15?
Right.
But there it is. So here we are in the midst of this, and we just realize that we are going to continue to do as we have always done. We're going to accept prophecies presented by Yahweh at face value. And here we are told that the man with the strange goatish hair would be really, really old, and that we're now reading that he's going to be, he is exceedingly perverted. But there's no reason for concern based upon this prophetic assessment. Bronze Boy will remain a controlling. Who would have thought that when I got into Ezekiel, and I started Ezekiel. This goes back 3 or 4 years ago, and I went into Ezekiel because of the Valley of the Dry Bones and the Gog and the Magog prophecies, and I was trying at that time to write what I thought would be the book I've just now finishing, Yada Yahowah Volume 9, on the last days and those battles that are fought in the last days. And I thought I'd do a decent job of explaining future prophecy. And I start reading the book and translating the book, and the first scene is is purely pagan. The first scene is right out of Babylon. The first scene is all about astrology. And I'm saying, wait a minute, this isn't right. And then Ezekiel is all twisted up in all sorts of torturous situations, and it's just one story after another on twisted and demented ways that he wants to kill Jews.
Yeah.
And it's just like going back to the Quran with all of Allah's repeated, this is the way I'm going to torture those Jews. And you're reading this and said, this is Satan. And then you encounter 2 horrific rape scenes. It's obviously Satan. And then you hear the confession of where he presents himself as the king of Tyre. And I'm on this rock, and I'm the king of the rock, and I'm so beautiful, and that I'm the biggest and best and most beautiful of all time. And then he talks about his role in the garden, where he came in, and then it was just such a shame that something as beautiful and wonderful as he was punished by God.
Right.
And you're going, well, wait a minute, this is a confession.
Yeah, whoops.
And then you continue to read it and study it, and then it devotes its end to creating this monstrous real estate development project that is coordinated by a man who is copper-colored. And you're saying, oh, this is really strange, until Donald Trump becomes the president of the United States as a failed real estate developer, right, and a man that has now received $16 billion from Muslim countries for monstrous buildings with his name on it. And he is the copper color man. He is the bronze boy of the end of Ezekiel that is tasked with building this monstrosity to pave over the Temple Mount and everything else. And who would have thought at the time that writing those 2 volumes, the last 2 volumes of the Babel series, would have served as such a catapult into understanding Donald Trump as the Antichrist. But it does.
Yeah.
It also had another advantage, which we're finding that we are have had many times. You know, when I wrote the book on questioning Paul that has become Twistianity, you go back to those days, we had huge numbers of people that just bailed on the whole covenant family concept. They couldn't deal with the idea of calling Paul a demon-possessed fraud.
But he said he was.
Yeah. And then when we came to realize that Dode was actually the Messiah and the Son of God, and that there was no Jesus because it was Dode who fulfilled Pesach Matzah Makora, we lost a lot.
And when we,
and then when we wrote that Ezekiel was a false prophet, right. Oh my, because that's the primary prophet for Revelation. Yeah. Oh my goodness. And so there is an advantage. You do get rid of the riffraff. So
the wheat from the chaff. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to do that. Eternity is a very long time. God's not looking for a lot of people. He's looking for good, loyal, devoted people who are thoughtful and rational and reasonable and moral. So I think it has been good. Has there been any of that, JB, that as you've come across, you've said, "Oh no, that's it, gone too far this time"?
No, usually it's, well, let me check this.
Right.
And I look into it, and as I go, it's like, nope, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's the evidence is all there, but it's still, you really have to have an open mind and be willing to invest the time to do the investigation to validate the claim.
Yep.
Right.
Be willing to go where the evidence leads you.
And
so many people don't want that. They want what confirms what they already believe.
Correct. And, because the kind of people that are really drawn to the covenant in the first place are going to be people who like personal responsibility. They like liberty. And they don't like having things imposed on them. So they're typically going to be, before they become apolitical or non-political, they're typically going to be more conservative in nature. and therefore to come down this hard on Donald Trump, that would be a major block for a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
But you got to go where the words lead. This is the calling, is to trust Yahowah. And if he says something through a prophet, he's had a pretty good track record up to now.
Right. Yeah. Better than a batting average. Yeah.
Pretty darn good. You know, when Israelis say, you know, that this idea of a Palestinian state is a non-starter, it's not going to happen. It was buried because of what happened in Gaza. And I said, so you think that Yahowah got this prophecy, which he repeats through two different prophets, you think he got that wrong? That's going to be the first one he got wrong?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Money on Yahowah.
Yeah, he's the interesting thing about Yahowah on prophecy is that he's not actually predicting the future.
No, he saw it happen.
No, he's already seen it. He's witnessed it. He just said, "This is what I've seen in the past." So,
oh, by the way, this is what happened.
This is what happened. This is where your decisions lead you. And that's always a conundrum, because you said, well, what if we convince people to do something different? Like throw Trump out of office. Like go back in time and get Fred Trump to buy a condom. Could we change the course of history? But
there'll be about 10 million people watching this show tonight, and that's not going to happen either. So,
yeah, that's right.
We don't have to follow us.
Yeah, that's true.
To move a needle.
Yeah, and we're never going to, because
he don't want.
Has there ever been a time when Yahowah's been popular?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. Has there ever been a time when Yahowah has tried to be popular?
No.
No. Popular means
he was
you're
also
giving
too
up
in the garden.
your essence, who you are. Yeah.
Yes, his whole goal is to not be popular.
Yeah.
He wants to be uncommon, set apart from the whole thing. So
that was hard to grasp, but that really is the way it is. I'm sorry.
It is the way it is. He doesn't. Good.
No,
JB.
No.
I was saying he's an introvert. He doesn't like big crowds. He likes to be around people who have the same interest as him and talk about those interests.
Yes, he does. And as an introvert, you still want people in your life.
Yeah.
You just want people that think similarly and are interesting to be around, and not too many of them at one time.
Right.
And go home after a while.
Yeah, and you still want to be able to go home after a while. And you want people that when you decide, I want to go home right now, we've had a lovely chat, are going to say, good, because I want to go home too.
Right.
We'll do this again tomorrow, but it's been fun.
Right.
It was obvious that God didn't spend 24/7 in the garden.
Yeah.
No, he didn't.
Right? He didn't.
Exactly.
So he engaged with Adam, and that was fun. And then when he had other things he wanted to go do, he went and did other things. And why would he be different in the future than he was with Adam and Chawah?
Right.
And it doesn't appear that God really got along with Chawah. That he kind of hung with Adam even after Chawah came. So God's not in it for the crowd. When the children of Israel turned on him and said, "We don't like the land very much. It's filled with Nephilim," and there's the what he called the necklace group was in there too, and we're going there, we're going to get killed. We don't like that land. We're going to go back to Egypt. What did God say? Did he say, "Oh, come on, I really need you. We're in this together. We can make this work. I want us to be one big happy family"?
No, he said, "Don't go then."
No, what he said is, if you're over 20, you're dead.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to happen. Every one of you that's over 20, you're going to die.
Yeah.
And he said of the 400,000 Israelites that were over 20, 2 of you are going to go into the promised land.
Right.
So that's pretty much being an introvert, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's go for a walk, kids.
Go for a walk, kids.
This out.
Yeah. We're going to go for a 40-year walk, kids. We're going to walk it all off. I've got some anger issues right at the moment with these guys. We're going to go walk it all off. And of course, they the next chapter, of course, they turned on him again, and then it gets even worse by the waters of Meribah, and it just keeps on getting worse and worse and worse.
They turned around and said, "Oh, you said we can't have it. Well, now we want it."
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the thing where they said you can't have it, and they said now we want it, and they ran up to the hill country, and they were slaughtered.
Yeah.
God's not trying to
make
work out
friends
a
and
deal, but
influence.
he accommodates everybody. In fact, in the second statement that he etched in stone, he said there will be thousands that receive his mercy for being observant of the terms of the covenant agreement.
Right.
And I'm not great at math, but even Kirk, you can do this one. What's a thousand? What's a thousand amongst billions?
About one in a million.
Yeah, 1 in a million. Yeah, 1 in a million. So God's looking for a few interesting people, and he'd be happy with that. When he looked at people with an Asama that would have been all around the Black Sea at the time, I'm sure that the Black Sea Gazette was talking all about Noach and building that boat in the middle of terra firma. And how many people did he save on that boat?
There's 8.
8. And of all of the people that had an Asama, he saved 8.
Right.
So God's not trying to be popular.
And some of them could have been only by association.
Yeah.
We don't know that he necessarily liked Shem or any of the other. Noach was his guy, but we don't know that he necessarily got along with anybody. It was like, but hey, they're your kids. Put them on the boat. So let's go. Yeah.
Put them on the boat. Yeah. I'm a family guy. That's your family. We'll put them on the boat. And Noach's only had 2 things going for him. One is he had already separated from the religious and political establishment of the area. So the Black Sea Gazette reported him as a introverted loner.
Right?
And the second thing is he listened to God and did what God said.
Right.
Pretty good idea. That worked out really
good thinking.
Good thinking, yeah. He listened to God, and it's just like we read what God says here, and we share what God said here, and it's pretty hard to be wrong under those circumstances, even when it seems extreme.
Yeah.
It seems extreme to say that there will be a Palestinian state carved out of Israel within the next 9 months.
Yeah.
But the prophets have spoken. That's what they said is going to happen. They said that this man that does this is the great betrayer. He is the person that Christians know as the Antichrist. And of course, that has to be Donald Trump. So we're just going to say it. I don't care how unpopular it comes across.
When you first revealed all that, my only thing, like you said, with his age was, well, if he died in office, it could be someone else. But then you start reading more and more of the descriptions, and it's like there's no one else that meets all that.
That was exactly where I went with it. That's exactly I was reluctant to say it because he was too old, and there's no way. It's so different, with all of the films and books that have been written about the Antichrist. He's always presented as this swashbuckling 30-ish year old handsome guy. Yeah, that's how he is presented. And so to perceive him as a broken down, fat ankle, leathery skin, orange colored man with dementia, that's tough to swallow. And so that's your first issue. And the second issue, how in the hell is he going to live another 8 years?
Right.
But then you read the things we've just read and so many more, and you go, oh, it's him. There is no one else that meets all of this. And no.
Fentanyl. Just give him a lot of fentanyl and keep going.
Getting a lot of fentanyl. I'm not an expert on fentanyl, but that doesn't sound like a good idea to me. So all of this is possible because Satan will be the power within him, continuing to animate this vile and perverted creature. The adversary's advocate will be afforded his serpentine authority and acclaim through his demon possession. And it is even now evident here in the late summer months of 2025 that there has never been a more duplicitous man in charge of a modern nation. Now, one of the things that I'm always careful of, like when we first realized that Dowd served as the Passover lamb, that he took our guilt into Sheol, into hell, to fulfill matzah, I couldn't make the pronouncement. I read it. It was true, but I couldn't make the pronouncement. And I said, I told Leah at the time that I had realized this, but I couldn't share it until I can figure out several things. I had to figure out, how did he come to know that he should volunteer to do this? And I figured that out. I said, okay, I got that. Now, why would he volunteer to do it? Because unless you can find a motive, he ain't doing it.
Right.
Because God's not going to force him. And so then I figured that out. Took a lot, but I was doing, I think it's the second or third Mizmor that is written at the time of the Absalom rebellion. And I figured it out. I understood the motive. And then it was, why would God allow it? Why would God allow his beloved son to suffer in this way? And then I figured that out, and how it was actually compassionate, how it was actually the right call. And once you could answer those three questions, then you could make the pronouncement. And then you had to check everything to make certain, because what you're saying, not only did Dowd fulfill Pesach, Matzah, and Makodim, but that means that there was no Jesus, that whole Jesus Christ thing is a complete fraud. So you better be really sure before you make that kind of statement. So on Donald Trump, to get to this, to say that a man is demon possessed, I'm convinced that no one is demon possessed against their will.
Yes. Yes.
You've got to be out wanting something that is, you have this void in your life. Yes. Something is going tragically wrong in your life, and you can't bear the loss. You can't bear responsibility, and you're looking for some way to survive this.
Muhammad in the cave. Muhammad in the cave.
Yes, exactly. Paul being run out of rabbinical school when he thought he was the bestest at it in the world, and him wanting to lash out at God and the world over this. So here we have Donald Trump. His first term in president was bad, but I don't think he was demon possessed. He was certainly immoral. He was certainly a narcissist. But he didn't appear to be a psychopath. And he certainly wasn't a confabulator. He could start and finish a sentence. Not every word out of his mouth was a lie. He was not overly destructive to anything more than his own reputation with his narcissism.
Yeah.
Then after the election, he's still president, and he encourages what we witnessed on January 6th. And he actually encourages it. And he forced it because he imagined that he had won the election and couldn't perceive that he had lost it. He made calls which were illegal, which would have landed his behind in jail, trying to get people to overturn the election. And now he's in real trouble. Now, these are absolutely impeachable offenses, and they are criminal offenses with long jail terms. And then he has all manner of issues. The Stormy Daniels thing, where the best he can hope for is to have it overlooked that he was diddling a ugly porn star when he was married and his wife was pregnant. And then he paid her off. And then when he paid her off, he committed an election crime, because you cannot pay off someone to be silent immediately before an election for obvious reasons. And he lost. And then it was shown in his real estate transactions, because he was going broke and had to borrow lots of money before he became president again. And he received these billions of dollars in bribes. And so he lied about his financial well-being to receive money, and he lost. And then he was facing the two civil cases of rape.
Right.
And he lost both of them. And then we're dealing with him and his stolen documents. Piles of them. He doesn't read. What in the world does he want stolen documents for?
Right.
And Mar-a-Lago. And he had lost that one. And then there was the case that was coming up that he knew that he would lose, which is the Georgia case, which is that he called the election coordinator for Georgia and told that person to go find some votes for him.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to lose that one. He's going to go to jail. And so he was convicted and losing every case. He had lost the election. He couldn't handle having lost the election. He was losing every case against those who were the perpetrators of January 6th were getting long jail terms, and he was the inspiration behind it, and his case was pending. He's going to lose it. He was going to go to jail. And he was going bankrupt. And he couldn't fathom that. He couldn't handle it. That's his motivation. He did the deal with the devil to get back in the White House, to stay out of jail, to compete, being called a loser, to be known as the ultimate loser. And that's when he invited Satan into his life. He knows it too. He made the call. He knows what he has done. And ever since then, his ego has been a match for Satan's ego. There really is no difference between them. And Satan has a type. You know, he was right there on the spot for Donald Trump. But, you know, Satan is a spiritual being, so he does know the future. And it's obvious that he knew who he was going to possess even before this all transpired, because he wrote about him in the book of Daniel. And obviously I knew about it, and Toad knew about it 2,600 years ago because we spoke of it. So did Yahowah, because he spoke of it too. And here we go with the War Department. We're headed right to the obliteration of this planet.
My God.
So the adversary's advocate is going to be afforded serpentine authority and a claim through demon possession. It empowers a man. I mean, you look at the influence of Paul. Now, he was a miserable son of a bitch, but very few people have had the influence on the world that man had.
Yeah.
You look at Muhammad, there was no greater scum than Muhammad. Pedophile, incestuous, a rapist, a mass murderer, a liar, a thief, slave trader. You don't get any worse than Muhammad. But look at his legacy on the world. Satan, if you're into that sort of thing, has a lot to offer. And Donald Trump's case, he got another 9 years, 10 years out of the deal he made with the devil. Not going to get any more than that. He's actually talking about, I hope I've earned heaven.
Right.
I hope I get into heaven.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, pal, that ain't going to happen.
Right.
You made your deal. You made your bed, and it's filled with worms. Lie in it. So we are witnessing in the White House the inception of what is known as the Antichrist, with this hideous blend of decaying human and despotic demon. It is only going to get worse from here. The resulting integration of Satan into a man's psyche is going to deliver a supernatural fulfillment of prophecy. The Copper Con, bronze boy, will supersede the norms of human decency. He will devolve to become unlike anything we have ever previously witnessed. affirming that we have tabbed the right guy. The Palmoni, that is another term for Makael and Yada. The Palmoni doesn't sound like a very prestigious term, and really there aren't any prestigious terms that are associated with the job I have been given. All the prestigious terms go to Dode as should be, but it's nice to be in God's story. So but the fact of the matter is, Palmoni is considered a very positive fellow. He saves Israel. So, he's like the man from Edom. He saves Israel. So that's a good thing. Anyway, the Palmoni bluntly states that the Donald Dumpster is debauched and that he is sexually depraved and corrupt and beyond these things beyond measure. And it takes some wherewithal to make those kind of claims. He says he's a spoiled brat long after men grow out of being so grossly immoral and childish in their behavior. Donald Trump is like the brat in the third grade still playing in the sandbox and throwing sand in everybody else's faces.
Yes.
Now, has been the case with Trump 47 from the beginning, very different than Trump 45, is he has been in a rush to appear successful, tripping on his own tongue to claim victory, no matter how horrendous the defeat. Feigning results in his overbearing style has been the catalyst of his appeal among religious and religious devotees. There's so many people think, well, he out-negotiated China. No, he got his clock cleaned with China. There's no deal with China other than China is no longer doing business with America, and yet America is dependent on China.
Right.
He picked a stupid fight. He claims there was a deal with Japan where Japan gives America $1 trillion, and there's no such deal. He said there was a deal with what was the other country that he had a spectacular deal, and they were going to give us billion. Oh, the EU is going to give us billions of dollars. No, there's no such deal. These things are completely imagined. He said he had a deal with Mexico. No, he doesn't. And there's just no correlation between what he claims and reality. Even when it is patently obvious that his schemes are unproductive, like the tariff schemes, and destructive, he remains effective at cowering the opposition and convincing devotees such that he thrives in the realm of confabulation and chaos. And all the while, the world is becoming unhinged on the precipice of war. Who would have thought that we'd have a War Department again? There's some things that are just beyond the pale. You don't think that you could go there. And he actually said, the state of the world today, we need a War Department. The anarchy of an economic collapse lurks around the corner. The strong are being devoured so that the weak can be exterminated. Billions are going to succumb, with millions of Jews counted among them. So clearly, the Malachi, as the Palmoni, has brought us forward in time to the last days between 5993 and 6000 Yah, and prior to Towrah in 2033, when all of this will be resolved. And for a time, Pasha, the rebellious one, is ruling the world as the human manifestation of Satan, an individual so overwhelmingly demon-possessed that man and spirit are becoming indistinguishable, even as they are on this day. Trump is becoming more authoritarian and deadlier than the collective menace of Paul, Titus, Akiba, Hadrian, Muhammad, Stalin, Hitler, and Mao combined. By the way, between them, that was about 600 million people.
Now we're talking billions.
We're talking billions now. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be 10 times. Could be a factor of 10 times. From 600 million to 6 billion. Carnage is going to be incredible. The beast, Trump, will accomplish what is heretofore been unthinkable and untenable, sucking the life out of the planet. And he will do so through centrifuge, with the epitome of evil pretending to be a force for good. And, I see posts from time to time. Individuals that are part of the covenant are curious, but some are, just like to play contrarian. And I see, I can't believe they'll say that, somebody that destroys America economically is going to be received by Israel, or somebody that continues to do these things can remain in office and remain popular. But he's been doing them now for 8 months, and everything he has said has been a disaster. And he's right at about the same popularity level he was. The MAGA still love him.
Yeah.
Israel still adores him. So clearly it's possible to be a complete disaster. And so long as you're confusing enough, there's enough chaos, and you're vicious enough, people go along. I mean,
and a lot of politics nowadays is a spectator sport, and people just don't like to be wrong. And so it doesn't matter what he does. It's still, it's not that bad because it was my guy,
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. It's not that bad. No, it's bad.
It is that bad. It is that bad. And when you align yourself with him, you're no better than he is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just not in your backyard yet.
So all of these Christians that are proposed, that they're the MAGAs, the Christian, we'll pray for him, we'll lay on hands, pray for our president. God bless Trump. God save Trump. They are literally rallying around this character that known as the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
If you look through history, there's never been a time when identity politics has rose that led to anything good. And that's what we have right now. It's identity politics. It's my side versus their side, and my side's right no matter what. That has never led anywhere good.
What you see particularly now is while the United States started the proxy war using Ukraine to bash Russians going back 30 years ago, when Russia was willing to reunite Germany under the West for the promise from NATO that it would never move closer to Russia. That was the trade. And the United States immediately welched on that deal. And then we overturned the government in Ukraine and in a coup. And then we sent Senators Graham and McCain to tell the Ukrainians years before that would all take place, that their war would be our war and we would stick with them, we'd give them whatever weapons they needed to go kill Russians. And yet 99% of people believe that Putin was the bad guy and he is the aggressor, and they present Putin as the boogeyman. Mm-hmm. So it is identity politics. It's the way that really evil men maintain their positions of power is projecting somebody else's worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
No matter how much they have to lie. And ultimately, they all know that the one way to guarantee that they will be impervious to criticism is war.
They're scared to death.
Yeah. I remember when I was, right after I was first called by Yahweh to do this, and our first mission was to expose and condemn Islam. And I knew George Bush at the time, and I knew that he was going to declare war on Afghanistan and Iraq, and he did. And I did a bunch of radio shows where I was the only person in the world that was saying that what we're doing is making a bad situation worse. And I did, you heard me, I did thousands of them. And all the while I was constantly scolded as when your country is at war, you are being unpatriotic and you're a traitor when you criticize your country when it's at war. Even if that war is making a bad situation worse, even if you're trying to save lives, you're the person who speaks the truth and tries to save lives is the traitor. And that's why politicians go to war. That's why the War Department now exists. And so Trump will prevail through pretense of prosperity, using copious amounts of worthless currency to build an economic house of cards. His Bitcoin venture, being president of the United States, and he's got Pakistan is the primary investor in his Bitcoin deal. Mm-hmm. And so if the dollar tanks, he makes a fortune, makes billions. If he tanks the dollar, he makes billions because of his Bitcoin deal. Stunning. And he will capitalize on people's ignorance, selfishness, greed, such they become beholden to and dependent upon his schemes. And yet with each handout, the recipients will be robbed of their independence, their sense of personal responsibility, their integrity, becoming as worthless as the currency being used to bribe them. And we should expect Trump to propose a new international currency bearing his image, of course, which is principally electronic and whereby every transaction can be monitored and controlled. The Chinese now have that. Almost all Chinese economic transactions are an electronic currency where they know exactly what everybody is making, what everybody is spending, where they're spending it, where they're going. They can track every single transaction because they're all electronic. So the Chinese have already imposed the system.
Yeah, they do the social credit system too, where they monitor your posts online. If you post anything against the government or whatever, then well, you can't buy and sell today.
That's right. That's correct. Oh yeah, and clearly, if the Chinese can do it, the Americans can do it.
Yeah,
I already had that in place. I mean, ready to go, but not used. But I've been reading about that for years.
If I were speculating, I would say we probably do, because our NSA, CIA, we were talking about identity politics, JB. I look at now politics being the entertainment arm of the industrial military complex. So they empower who they want. We're given choices between two of their candidates.
Yeah.
And it's just strictly for our entertainment and amusement that we think we're actually choosing and making a decision that matters in our lives. And nothing changes. It's the reason that, let's just pretend that Trump had a moment of altruism and that he really wanted to end the carnage that has claimed now 2.5 million Ukrainians, and that he really wanted to end that war. Do you know what would happen to him if he actually accepted Putin's terms, which are the only way to end the wars, except the Russian terms at this point? You know what happened to him?
I don't think he had one hole in his ear.
Yeah, same thing that happened to JFK. He'd be killed. The military industrial complex is not going up. And so they would kill him, and they would get their boy J.D. Vance to pursue that same agenda. That's just who they are. That's how they operate. And Trump knows it. He has been told. We don't care that you think that the war needs to end. We don't care that Russia is winning. We make a lot of money on this.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was Mark Twain who said, if voting mattered, they wouldn't let us do it.
That's true. It's a true statement, yes.
Yeah. It's America is not a democracy. It's first of all, it's representative government. But it isn't even representative government because the candidates that are put up by the two major parties are bad and worse. There really isn't a choice between them. And in the two countries that actually practice some form of what we call democracy, was really an oligarchy, would be Greece and Sparta. Only people that were invested heavily in the community, they owned land, They owned businesses, they owned farms, they were productive, had the right to vote. It was kind of like the lords of the king. And at the time, the government was a monarchy. All during this period, there was not an elected head of state. So it was a monarch, it was a king. And but the people for a period of time were able to vote as to whether or not they were going to send their sons off to war. They could vote on government projects because they were the ones that were funding it. And those are the only democracies that had any endurance. They did not vote for who would run the government. That was all inherited through a monarchy. But they could vote for what the government chose to do, includes in terms of how much it would tax and how much it would spend and when it would go to war. And you look at Greece and Sparta, they were slave states. The economy was run entirely by slaves. 95% of Athens was slaves. Sparta was nothing but a slave state. It was their military existed to enslave everybody around them to do all of the work. And these were the two examples of democracy. And so we celebrate something today that is really an evil, tremendous evil in history. And you look at the representative government of Rome, the Roman Republic, which we copy as Capitol Hill and the American Eagle, and all of this sort of thing. The Senate, exactly, the Senate. The Senate was comprised of the most oligarch of all possible oligarchs. They were the largest landowners in Rome. They were the largest slave owners in Rome. And they were the only ones who got to vote. No one else did. And they would vote for one of their own. And then it quickly devolved from that to which Senate leader could amass the most legions. And whose legions could kill the other's legions more effectively, which is how Julius Caesar became the first Caesar of Rome and ended the Republic of Rome. And then they began to refer to themselves as gods from that point on. So representative government in Rome, and Rome was the most vicious of empires. And this stuff does not have a good history. And so I do think that Trump will introduce his Bitcoin and other electronic currencies when the US dollar craters. It's going to bear his image. It can be principally electronic, whereby every transaction can be monitored and controlled, and to lure the masses into accepting it and then embracing his all-electronic alternative, he's going to forgive all debts, personal and corporate and national. It cost him nothing, and that they don't owe him the money anyway. And it will, however, destroy the banking industry, giving him absolute financial control. It will also entice the governments of the EU to align with him because they are hopelessly in debt too. In addition, I suspect that he will confiscate the savings of the rich, using their deposits as the backing for his currency. And in the process, the Copper Khan will eliminate all potential rivals while gaining absolute control over the population. That's the playbook. The Great Reset, as they call it. Also insightful, for a while during his rise to power, the devil's denizen will be a wolf in sheep's clothing. That is, until Satan is ready to stop hiding behind the Jesus Christ image that he has used so successfully, and also behind Allah. Because he will, on the Ides of March in 2030, declare himself Lord God of all. And for most, it will be too late to protest. He will own almost everyone by then. That's why the two witnesses have to be supernatural. because they're going to share the stage in Jerusalem with him. And he would have his men out to kill them, and so they have to be supernatural. They're Elia and Yada are not coming back as we are now. I can tell you that for certain. We wouldn't last 15 minutes.
Getting some upgrades.
We're gonna have an upgrade. I've always been fond of upgrades. I don't know how much we're going to be able to upgrade the appearance and the fit and fitness and all that sort of thing. But I'm hoping for a big upgrade personally. But I don't really think it matters. Part of it too is that in Eliah's case, he is sort of a Don Rickles type, where he's not imposing as a presence, but his rhetoric is biting and it's funny, and it's intellectual humor. In the case of the Adam of Parah, the other guy, he has to be a sympathetic character, because when he is slaughtered by Satan and Satan's minions, he has to have the population of Yisrael saying, "Wait a minute, this is the guy that did so much for us, that protected us." Right. And now he's being slaughtered. There has to be some sympathy. It's why a lamb was chosen as the Passover lamb, not a rattlesnake.
Right. Yeah.
It's got to be some sympathy. So I know that as I come back, I've got to be a sympathetic character. And, that's kind of hard when you're a bull, unless the bull is perceived as trampling down. Yeah. Demons and goring all manner of evil individuals that would assault Israel, and his goal is to elevate the prestige of what it means to be a Yisraelite, to be a Yehud. But still, he has to be a somewhat sympathetic character. The whole process, the symbolism doesn't work. He's not going to turn into a cow, but he still has to be perceived as sympathetic,
strong and sympathetic.
Mm-hmm. So while we're not told how powerful the Ruach of Ha-Satan will be, I have some personal experience to share which may be helpful. As a result of the 91st Mizmor Psalm, Yahweh has assigned his spiritual representatives to protect me, my home, my family, so that I can complete this mission. And that's no easy task, because after writing Prophet of Doom, which is now Goddamn Religion, and sharing my findings on many thousands of talk radio programs, I received countless thousands of death threats. And yet, I never cowered, never hid, never ducked. Moreover, for the past 8-9 years, I've lived in Hurricane Alley, and first in southern Florida and then in the central Caribbean. I've watched as storms were sheared miraculously and dissipated, or dramatically altered course and strengthened only after passing. I saw 2 storms coming at us at the same time. One missed us to the north, the other one missed us to the south. We have a storm that was projected to be a Cat 3 that was going to make its eye pass right over the U.S. Virgin Islands, and it's sitting out in the eastern Atlantic as we speak. And guess what? Dry Sahara sand just knocked the living crap out of it. And it is being downgraded as we speak, and may present some wind and some rain. But
thank you.
It's just one after another that exactly what God says is going to happen. And you're going to the deal is twofold. One is, actually threefold. One is God makes a promise, he honors his promises. He says, I'm going to protect your home and your family. He's not going to, he's 100% accurate when he says he's going to do something. So he's committed to doing it. He does what he said, and you can always trust him and rely on him. The second is, there are not a whole lot of people willing to do what we're doing. Mm-hmm. When the line to volunteer for this job, actually I didn't volunteer, I was volunteered. But the line of potential contestants that were competing for this job.
You look around and go, huh? Nobody's there.
Zero.
Nobody there,
the
baby.
job existed.
Yeah, then you read, I said, I looked for a couple of thousand years, didn't find anybody. And then all of a sudden you say, well, man, then I volunteered for this? Huh? What's wrong with me? So first of all, there's nobody else to do the job. So, that God's going to look for that. And now there's no time left for a replacement. So if you get sidetracked, Leia's not feeling good today. You know how many health issues I've had over the last, 9-10 years? Zero. Why? Because we can't afford the distraction.
Right.
Why is Rich here? Because there is so much that needs to be done, and you can't get it all done unless you're functioning together as a team.
Right.
Sure.
Why did you appear, Kevin, when you did, and bring so much strength and character and ability to what we're trying to accomplish together right at the time we needed it most?
Right.
Because we're not in a position to fail. We have to succeed. God is counting on us to do this job to the best of our ability and to succeed. Now, fortunately, he has a really low bar. He was happy with Adam in the garden, right?
Right.
So if we're the only ones that are part of the Shabbat harvest, he's still going to be happy with us.
Right.
So long as we did our best to encourage others to participate, he's delighted with what we have. Even if this group right here and some others that are helping us online and doing other things around the world in support of the covenant family, and let's say there's 1,000 of us all total, God's delighted with that.
Right.
So he's going to protect us because, well, this is his family.
Yeah.
And he's our father, and he can and he will. I looked at Hurricane Dorian was quite a deal. It was a Category 5 storm, and it coming right for Fort Lauderdale, and it got 40 miles off the coast, stalled, and then went due north.
Right.
We just had a Category 5 storm. A Category 5 storm hit the island. I got nothing left. We had a Category 5 storm, 3 weeks ago. What happened? It went 200 miles north of here. We didn't even get a strong gust of wind. So this is the protection that we have from God. So beyond all of this, according to Yashai Isaiah, I know that I've been afforded the counsel and encouragement of the 7 most vital effects of Yahweh's Spirit, enable an otherwise ordinary individual to understand prophecies such as these, translates his words as never before, share resulting insights beyond anything anyone have ever perceived. And therefore, Yahweh's Ruach are enabling. His Malach are protective. They're powerful. And Hasatan will be overwhelmingly destructive, controlling, and destabilizing. So we know that the spirit of Satan in this man will be able to perform. We will be up against a formidable foe. And here we are. We're the frontline defense against Satan. Not only doing that, but protecting God's people from Satan, and they don't even want our protection.
Yeah.
So there, Rich, you sit underneath the library of books. You look really scholarly over there.
He needs a tassel, on a little head with a little triangle head with it.
Oh, yeah, no. Yeah, I know. But we're not doing tassels anymore. Yeah, you heard that we're not doing. I heard we're not doing tassels anymore.
No, it is.
The tizit is not a tassel. Yeah, the tizit is actually a flower, and it's not to be shown on the outside of your garments for others to see as a religious artifact. It's to be hidden inside of the hem of your clothing for only you to see, and it is a blue flax flower. Is the tassel that was the tizit that Jews wear as part of their religious outfit. Yeah, it's not a tassel. It's a flax flower, blue flax flower.
Well, I was actually talking about the one you did.
I know. You were talking about the scholarly one, but it gave me a chance to make a book. Now look at that guy. He is the dog whisperer.
Eating out of the palm of his hand, isn't he?
Yeah, look at the way the Wook is looking at him. Oh my God!
Oh, are you my papa?
Well, we know who has the personality among the group of us, right?
Whisperer. Wow,
he's a good boy.
Yeah, there's Rich with Wookie, and there, JB. You get your daughter to give you hugs before bed as you're doing the show.
Yeah,
life is pretty good, huh?
Got my puppy at my feet.
Oh, you got your puppy at your feet? Yeah, I've got Asher. She's at my feet right now, snoring away. She's camera shy, so we don't get her quite as much on the camera, and she's tough as a lap dog. Where Wookie fits, Asher at 70 pounds is.
I draw the line. Yeah,
I draw the line. Well, we have reached our 2-hour point in our family hour. I think it's been interesting to be able to talk about how vivid the portrayal is of Donald Trump as the Antichrist, as this great betrayer of Israel, and to recognize that we are really living out prophecy, that over the next few months, there's going to be the pronouncement of a Palestinian state carved out of the heart of Israel. And it's just so hard to imagine because there is no Palestine. There are no Palestinians. It's a very transparent lie. And yet you have billions of people around the world rallying behind this and accusing Jews of genocide. And then you have Jews becoming their own worst enemy in the way that they're prosecuting this war in Gaza. And so you're just watching the whole world unraveling and the inevitability of the prophecies that God has made of them. So it is an exciting time to live. I hope that we exceed Yahweh's expectations and that the best among us listens. You choose to be part of this covenant family. It is the best job in the world. We work for the best individual in the universe. The compensation package is to die for. I'll tell you, it's
literally,
and literally, and you inherit the universe and live forever and enter God's company as His son or daughter. So it's the ultimate deal, and in the process, you actually get to work with God and do something He thinks is really, really important that He will value for all time. And what a wonderful position to be in. Why wouldn't you want to do that? Read these books that are behind me, YAHOWAH.com. They're all free. Listen to the YAHOWAH blog. You can go to the YouTube pages. The two most popular now are the Yahweh's blog on YouTube and Yada Yahowah on YouTube. And then there's Craig Winn on Facebook and Yada Craig on X. We are available. And then YAHOWAH.com, the website, particularly now with these beautiful flip books and the integration of our multimedia presentation with the library. We are making the truth available, and we're encouraging you to listen through programs like these where we all get to make a contribution. What do you think there, Rich? You're going to just be a pretty face? You're going to chime in here for us?
Well, they love you on X.
Oh, they do. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm the only guy in the history of X that has like 24,000 posts for 1,900 followers. I get a follower for every like 12 posts. So I'm really, really good at it. And then you think of, who's your target audience? Okay. So I'm telling Jews that rabbinic Judaism is their greatest enemy. I'm telling Christians that there was no Jesus Christ. I've written the 5 most condemning books in the history of Islam. I'm telling Marxists that they are without brains, without morality, and they've devolved so they're almost no longer human. and the conspiratorialists who invade X and are everywhere, I mock as absolute numbskulls. And I'm vehemently opposed to MAGA, and I'm opposed to the trajectory of the European Union. Where's your affinity?
Yeah.
Where are you going to be
six
popular?
Six people.
Your target audience is too intelligent to be on X.
They are. They are. That is true. So
That's a good point.
That's a good point. So
I created an account just so I could follow you to kind of help. But before that, I was never on X.
Yeah, it's and yet you feel like you still can't honor the responsibility if you don't use the platforms that are available and try to communicate with people, even if all you're doing is leaving them without excuse.
Yeah.
That's really the only thing.
And that's what happens. There will be no excuse.
There'll be no excuse.
Just like what I'm still mad about this afternoon's 89th Mizmor.
Oh, yes. I mean, I don't know if you saw the show, but we did a program downstairs, and it is, as Rich say, we just get angry by the fact that with God being so declarative, there's no hinting at it. There's no metaphors. There's no insinuation. There's no symbolism. He just blatantly says, Dode is the Messiah. Yeah. Dode is my son. Dode is the Savior. Dode is the chosen one. And he just lays it all out and then says, for you to claim any other person as my son, as the Savior, as the Messiah, as the returning king, you're calling me a liar.
That's right.
And yet the three religions that grew out of from Jews, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam all do those things. And it just makes you mad.
It's been the words have been there for 3,000 years.
Yes.
So they didn't overlook it.
No.
It was all intentional. All the religious did this shit.
You're calling God a liar, and yet you're parading around as if you're speaking for God. Mm-hmm. I mean, how could you be worse than that?
We got a place for you. He's got a place for you. Yeah.
By the way, when I'm looking, it looks like I'm looking away from Rich as I'm talking to Rich. Rich is actually that direction from me, even though his picture is this direction from me. So I'm kind of like the crazy scarecrow. He just does that to make certain, that I look like I don't know which way to turn. But you guys are to my right here, and so I can look at you guys because you are to my right, even though you're on the left side of the screen.
Put your hand up like
but
this.
Rich is over here, and if I look over here, that's the chair that my wife sits in when she does the show. So it's I know there's a way that somebody should be able to do this in such a way that I can look over here and we can pretend that now I'm looking at Rich when Rich is over there. But nonetheless,
we can do some movie magic with that. Yes, we can.
We can do some movie magic with that.
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. One of the things we're looking forward to too is to begin a news show where we do news clippings, and we give me the opportunity and perhaps do all of this with with you guys alternating as co-hosts, and we talk about the events of the world, so we can make world events relevant to prophetic statements so that everybody knows exactly where we are and that God spoke of these things. I think it would do a lot to elevate the witness that we can generate, particularly on YouTube and on Facebook. And so that's part of the magic that we wish to do as well, and to have more programs that rather than sitting in a chair, I think we have the best studio backdrops that are available anywhere on any blog programs you see by a long shot between our three studios. Yes. But we want to do some where we're just walking on the beach, walking through the gardens, walking around the pool with the ocean in the background, where people realize that this really is extemporaneous, that we're sharing this because we know it, because we understand it, because it's literally the part of the fiber of who we are and have become. You know, as I said at the beginning, that in some ways I wish I hadn't written all these books, because I could do so much better a job now of identifying all the wonderful clues and symbols Yahowah has woven into the story to show how it all fits together over time. But then I realized that if I hadn't written the books, I wouldn't know any of this material to be able to do that, and none of you guys would be here.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's
you'd
all,
be solo.
yeah, it'd be all part of the process that we are learning together on this. And
Think
I think,
about
Rich,
how many times you've been talking about something, explaining it, that you then something new would click with you, that you would then learn something new from that. So you, by teaching it, you're learning it even more. So
I don't think there's ever been a time where that hasn't been true. That was one of the reasons I actually enjoyed the Blog Talk Radio days, and now this is that, you know, Rich will put up a particularly when we're in the other studios, and then we have a teleprompter, and so we'll be able to look at the text, and the camera sitting behind the text, so I can quote the statements that Yahowah made accurately. And I'm doing that, I'm saying, oh my, look at that. There is something that I never witnessed before. Mm-hmm. You know, to see how God has woven this whole story together. Every time you go through the material, you perceive something you didn't see the last time. Yep. That's the whole idea of learning and growing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And the more you know, the better positioned you are to know more.
Well, numbers certainly turned out to be relevant.
Oh my, to realize just how specific all of those chapters are to our situation and the story that God has tasked us with filling. And you'd think it was, well, it's numbers. That's the least interesting part of the Torah, talking about a history of people long ago that's filled with names and really doesn't apply to us, right? Right. And then you read it and you go, oh my, and like the names of the spies, and it ends with a Macri, and you realize, well, that's the name of that means salesman, and that's the guy that ultimately resolves the issues pertaining to Dode and his people's rebellion against him, and he's a salesman.
Yahowah's got a great sense of humor.
Oh my goodness!
Well, he just doesn't miss a trick, you know.
He doesn't miss a trick. It's just everywhere, and so yes, it is. It's a constant avalanche, a tsunami of insights, and they're all there, waiting to be found, waiting to be shared. You almost feel like God's giggling in the background. Said, "I knew you'd catch that one."
Wait till he finds this one.
Wait till he finds this one. Yeah, I think that was a good one. Wait till he finds this one.
Tomorrow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, wait till tomorrow. Today was great. Wait till tomorrow. And I think to a large degree too, God put them there, knowing that we'd find a bunch of them, but not looking forward in time to seeing us find them, so that when we do find them, it's fun for him. Right. Yeah, he can laugh too, that he can enjoy the process too. There's certain things that he's seen all the way to the end, so he knows how all this turns out, and we prevail in the end, and that's really encouraging. And God is exceedingly complimentary, loves to share credit, and so we're in a really great position. But I think so much of the detail along the way, God enjoys it along with us.
Yeah, and that's profound if nothing else. No, that's just wow.
Yeah. Yes, it's been the most amazing experience, particularly over these last couple of years, and tremendously so over these last 6 months. And just when we had thought that we had been thrown so many obstacles in our path that this just couldn't be done, it's the time that we flourished beyond anything we could imagine, and have had the most fun doing it, the most comfortable within the team that is working together, and it's literally every day with what we are accomplishing. So very happy to be part of this. This is a very long sign out.
Yeah, tell Leah that we miss her.
Yes, I hope she begins to feel better. All right. Good night, you all. Wonderful Shabbat to one of all. You need to catch a breath, get out of the moon there, JB. Time to get out of my pool, Kevin. But and it was an honor to see my good friend and his wife in the spread on Carmel Magazine. For those who haven't seen it, we have it on our Facebook site, but I'm sure it's available online. Carmel Magazine. And I
think you own one of those paintings too.
Yeah. Oh my. The fact that Carmel being really one of the art capitals of the world, and they would pick you to do this large spread within the magazine. I mean,
I thought it was a miracle.
Wow. No, I don't think so. I think that you are uniquely gifted, and I love the fact that Sylvia has developed her own style as your student, and yet she has a marvelous style that's fresh and it's interesting and rich.
She won't let me go in her studio either. Get out till I'm ready. Don't mess it up. Okay, I'm not touching that.
Wow. You're a lucky man to have a wife who shares your passion. And that you guys have been really so successful together to, make a living doing the things that you love, and to share an enthusiasm for the covenant together. And Sylvia, Kirk's wife, she's Spitfire, man. She is no nonsense. She will tell you exactly what she thinks, and from a moral compass point of view, she is always right, and it's so rare to see somebody with a moral integrity, and who isn't afraid to express herself. And she's that person.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's a marvelous thing, and we're delighted to have Patty back to JB and our company. You married exceedingly well, and she has always been a sweetheart and a marvelous contributor to the Covenant family. We're even trying to recruit somebody stateside that's going to come hopefully to the island and going to make these programs even better and add lovely personality and plus tremendous capability. So hopefully that'll happen soon, and we'll even have more contributors to what we're doing here. It's an exciting opportunity, and we have to do this as a family, as a team. And that's exactly what's happening. Well, good night, you all. Have a wonderful Shabbat. We wish you all the best, and thank you for contributing.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, y'all. Good night.